Hi. First of all, I want to express gratitude to Albert, Dima, Steve, and Dumitru for organizing this event. I will be talking on stability of discrete fractional systems and lifespan of living species. Uh, in one sentence, the content of this talk is the following. The distribution of times of the stable evolution before the break of unstable fractional with power law memory systems under random perturbations may coincide with the observed lifespan distribution of living species. It was stimulated by the recent death of famous scientists, and two of them from this slide, George and Valentin, were at the beginning of those conferences of the series of events, and they were friends of all of us. Uh, Beginning at conception, evolution of an individual living species is programmed, fertilized. Eggs, fetus, baby, child, adolescent, and adult are aging and death also programmed? This is the question. In evolutionary biology, there are a few approaches to the problem of aging, and none of them, including aging and as a genetic program, they don't answer the question if there is a fundamental limit to a human lifespan. As an opposite to the experimental approach of evolutionary biology, a biology of lifespan from the beginning evolved as a mathematical science, and you can see from the slides and names of many famous mathematicians and physicists are associated with the development of this science. Methods proposed by Laplace are used till now to analyze lifespan distribution of lab animals. When I started this research, the main approach to to the distribution of living species and main result was that lifespan has no fundamental limit. There is small probability of, for example, extremely small, of living until 1,000 years old. And also data available at the end of the previous century suggested that the force of mortality at extremely old ages start decreasing. Actually, not rate, but rate of increase is decreasing. But the new, more better prepared data show that this is not true. And recent publications of the same authors, they suggest that there is a fundamental limit to the human lifespan. Those are very recent results based on the best available data. Now, to model by fractional calculus, I still will not talk about fractional calculus in general. I'll talk only about minimal set necessary for this presentation. There are a few approaches, two actually major approaches to obtain fractional maps. One is based on fractional equations of kicked systems, and it is similar to the way in which the universal map derived in regular dynamics. And this is the result, derived maps from solution of that equation. The other approach is based on the solution of fractional difference equations. Those solutions can be considered as universal maps. Now, the most important case is alpha between 0 and 1, because those are cases when the memory is actually fading. It's power law fading. It's in both cases in fractional and fractional difference. They are convolutions, and asymptotically for large n minus k, it means for distance past weights are falling as a power law. Here it's asymptotically power law, but and this defines similarity of those two maps. But the difference comes from those weights at the near future. So this is the most important range, alpha between 0 and 1. Those are the most important formulas, and this is what we will deal with. But here we will make certain proposition about those function g in order to have a logistic map. So if G is K sine X, then we have standard map and the whole family of maps. But we will deal with the logistic and logistic map in both cases, fractional and fractional difference, obtained if G is equal to this expression. So now the subject is well defined. Bifurcation diagrams become two-dimensional diagrams. I will not stop here. If you have questions, I'll answer at the end of the talk. Now, one of the most important and interesting thing is that those bifurcation diagrams exist not only as a function of parameter, but as a result of the evolution of individual trajectories. For example, in the chaotic area of parameters, trajectories still may start as periodic trajectories and then bifurcate and end in chaos. And high periodicity trajectories may start as low periodicity trajectories. And by the way, I have to note that there are no periodic solutions for fractional equations except for the fixed point. And those periodic points, they're actually not periodic points, they are asymptotically periodic things. Now, but we are applying fractional models to model lifespan. So where in living species and in humans, we may find power law memory. First of all, our real memory obeys power law. It's fading as a power law with time. And the same can be said about learning and adaptation. Now, talking about our nervous system, it is shown that neurons firing rate is a fractional derivative of slowly varying stimulus parameters. And the orders are again between 0 and 1 and closer to 0, 0 0.15, 0 0.5. And another strong argument is viscoelasticity of biological tissues. Tissues of all organs, the liver, heart valves, heart, brain, they all obey, they are all viscoelastic. And the order alpha of corresponding fractional differential equations is again between 0 and 1. Now, where we have to compare fractional models to real distributions of lifespans. And those distributions of lifespans are closely related to this person, Benjamin Gompertz. He actually derived his Gompertz law, where mu is the force of mortality defined in the following way, where L is the number of survivors at age T. The more correct form of the same equation would be with the added constant. And then in this form, it is called Gompertz-Makeham law. Now, to compare this law with real distributions, scientists and mathematicians from the beginning of this science of aging used life tables, and those life tables contain ages starting from 0 for a certain cohort, and number of survivors at age at corresponding age is given in the third column. All other columns are derivatives and can be derived from this column. Number of dying people, it's just differences here, and probabilities can be obtained then as a ratio, and everything else here can be obtained from this third column, a number of survivors. So here we see mathematical results of mathematical models, more detailed mathematical models where people model human beings as a complex system with a lot of redundancy, where some subsystems are connected in series. And Gompertz law, which is a straight line. Here, Gompertz law is a straight line, and dots are actually results taken from a life table. Here, Gompertz, Makeham and Gompertz law for certain real distribution of lifespans. And here there are a few mathematical models, and 3 is real, some real data. But the thing is that when mathematicians who model lifespan use models with a finite limit for the lifespan, they obtain data on force of mortality, which contradict to the observation. But they use real models with no memory. We will use models with memory, and again, it is based on viscoelastic properties of tissues and real human memory. And as a parameter, which we will model, we will select a variable which is similar, not exactly, but similar to the fitness understood as the number of descendants. So let's look here at fractional at the top and fractional difference models. And from here you can see that when here it's a logistic map, and here it's a logistic map again. When the system starts with certain initial conditions, and systems in both cases are asymptotically period 2 systems, for a very long time they converge to the fixed point, and then at certain point they break. Okay, for a wide range of initial conditions, this is true. The closer initial condition to 0, the longer system converges to the fixed point before the break. And the convergence to the fixed point in the case of the stable fixed point or unstable fixed point, it's still the same convergence with you see with speed as convergence according to the law n to the power negative alpha. Okay. So really systems first exist as stable fixed point and then they break. If we draw a graph of dependence of lifespan of this breaking point on initial conditions, we see that in all those considered cases, in fractional and fractional difference, there is a limiting age. So if initial conditions approaches to zero, the lifespan increases, but not indefinitely. There is a maximum possible lifespan depending on the parameters when the system breaks. If we start disturbing those systems, then systems breaks faster. You see here, it breaks somewhere here. We may select some criteria to mention that the system is dead or broken, that stable fixed point is not stable any longer. But also you see from here, in the evolution of a fractional system, we see something that corresponds also to Buffon's law, which suggests that time of development of a biological species is approximately 1/7 of the time of its life of its lifespan. Okay, but here perturbations, we begin perturbations after 20,000 iterations with no perturbations, then system breaks. Here perturbations at each step exists starting from n16 for 10 to the 5th iteration. So there is very limited, there must be very limited small time interval when system is preserved. And this is what is observed in living species. If we immediately start with those perturbations, system is unprotected, then it will not live for long. But if we start after first 16 iterations, that this memory of stable evolution will not allow system to break. More than that, if we add to this kind of perturbations, strong perturbations of the order of magnitude of 1, but added on at certain separate steps, systems will still be stable as a fixed point when it is essentially asymptotically unstable. Now, if we now run hundreds of thousands of iterations with different random perturbations, then we may obtain distribution of lifespans. And this distribution obeys, again, you can see Gompert's law, and the force of mortality is not increasing as in models with no memory. Now, those are major conclusions. Systems with power law memory are robust. Large long perturbations won't destroy them. The observed power law in human memory and the viscoelastic nature of our organ tissues present reasonable arguments for modeling human individuals as fractional with power law systems, power law memory systems. Power law memory in the evolution of individual humans and separate organs may lead to the limit of the human lifespan. You see, in all those models, lifespan was limited. Let me also finish this. Now, models with memory demonstrate that the observed lifespan may be significantly smaller than the maximum possible lifespan. In those calculations, for example, we can see that 140,000 runs, the maximal possible age was 77, but nobody survived after 68 years old. Now, the models with memory, in models with memory, the decrease at very large ages of the rate of increase of the force of mortality does not contradict the limited lifespan, which is impossible in memoryless models. And thank you. I finished and I stop recording.